They told you walking was enough, and for a time, it was. You stepped through fog, grief, neighborhoods, wearing the same shoes you trusted when the world moved faster. It kept you upright, until it didn't. Until your knees paused before you stood. Until your feet hesitated before curbs. Until something inside you whispered, "Is this still working?" Maybe you don't need more steps. Maybe your body is asking for something different, not harder, not faster, just deeper. There is a kind of strength that doesn't look strong. It looks like rising from a low chair without holding the armrest. Like carrying 2 small bags of groceries without thinking. Like twisting a lid open and smiling at the surprise of ease. Robert had always walked, 2 miles each morning, clockwork. His watch knew the route better than his mind did. But groceries had become heavier. His legs wobbled more on stairs. And somewhere between his stride and his sigh, he realized his body was moving, but not building. A friend mentioned a quiet truth. After 60, the body begins to shed muscle like tree leaves in wind, gently, steadily, without announcement. And walking, while rhythmic, doesn't ask the muscles to grow back. So Robert tried something that felt silly. He picked up a small weight, 5 pounds, more memory than challenge. But he lifted, slowly. He didn't count. He listened. The first week, his arms trembled. By the third, he felt steadier standing at the sink. One evening, he lifted a box from the floor, and nothing protested. Not his back, not his breath, not his belief. He began lifting while the kettle boiled, not to gain muscle, but to greet it again. Someone once told him, after 70, strength isn't about adding. It's about restoring certainty. And that's what he was doing, not building, just reminding his body. You still know how to hold me. Edward never really thought about balance. It was just there. In every turn of his body, every casual pivot from sink to stove, until one afternoon, reaching for a plate, his foot missed a small shift in weight, and the world tilted. He caught himself. Nothing dramatic, no bruises, just silence, and the sound of something slipping deeper than his shoes. Trust. From that moment, everything felt just slightly less certain. The rug in the hallway, the curb he used to step over without looking, even turning around in the shower. He didn't want fear to shrink his world. So he began quietly at the kitchen counter, barefoot, one hand on the surface. He shifted his weight from heel to toe, like rocking on waves. Some days, he stood on one foot. He'd close his eyes for just 3 seconds, sometimes 5. The wobble was real, so was the breath that followed. No one told him balance fades because the muscles that hold us upright are often forgotten. But they remembered, and as they reawakened, so did he. He added slow rotations to his morning, lifting a foot while brushing his teeth, holding the edge of the sink less each time. He noticed something else. His spine felt more alert. His steps became less about control and more about flow. One morning, he caught himself turning around without hesitation and smiled. Not because he was steady, but because his body had stopped asking if it could trust the floor. Someone had once said, balance after 70 isn't about control, it's about conversation. Edward was listening again. Walter never stopped walking, but bending became harder. Tying his shoes took longer, and turning to check behind felt like trying to remember a language he had once spoken fluently. He didn't call it pain. He called it narrowing. So he tried something new. Not a class, not a program, just a slow return to motion, without destination. Each morning, he stood barefoot, rolled his shoulders, let his arms drift like curtains, knees bending slightly, neck tilting to one side, like greeting the sun. He wasn't stretching, he was remembering. The hips responded first, then his back. One morning, he twisted to grab his coat and didn't feel the usual protest. He began stepping into his pants without sitting, reaching shelves without a ladder of breath. The body, he realized, wasn't resisting movement. It was waiting for it to become more human again. There's something tender about moving for no reason other than reminding your joints you still live here. A study he'd once overheard on the radio mentioned how gentle mobility restores synovial fluid, like oiling the hinges of a beloved old door. He didn't need that study, he felt it. He wasn't getting more flexible, he was getting more available, to reach, to twist, to live. Harold never meant to shrink. It just happened, little by little. A head that leaned forward, shoulders that rolled inward, a spine that, once proud, began folding around years of gravity, worry, and responsibility. He noticed it one day in the mirror. A candid photo at his granddaughter's recital showed him smaller than he remembered, not in height, but in presence. He began feeling it in the way his ribs compressed when seated, the way deep breaths no longer reached his lower back, the way he caught himself sighing, not from emotion, but from lack of space inside his chest. So he started standing against the wall, heels, hips, shoulders, head, noticing the gaps, the distance between alignment and assumption. He didn't try to fix it, he tried to listen. Each morning, after opening the curtains, he stood tall for 2 minutes, sometimes with hands clasped behind his back, pulling his chest open like unsealing an envelope of memory. He felt ridiculous, then released. The breath came back, longer, richer. His neck loosened, his chin lifted. He caught himself gazing forward, not down. Posture was no longer about being straight. It was about being seen again, by himself. A gentle suggestion from an old physical therapist had once floated by in his notes. Lengthen the spine to open the mind. He didn't understand it then. He does now. Because standing tall wasn't about confidence. It was about allowing space for dignity to rise through the ribs again. Harold walks no faster than before, but he no longer walks as if apologizing for taking up space. And that, he says, feels like growing taller again, from the inside. Raymond walked for years, rain or shine. 2 laps around the park. It was routine, a ritual. It kept him sane when his wife passed, when the kids moved away, when the world changed. But now, his knees speak more than his thoughts. The right hip hums a low complaint. His stride, shortened, not by choice, but by preservation. He feared stopping, but he feared fracturing more. So, when a neighbor mentioned swimming, he hesitated, then tried. The first time he forgot how it felt to be held without pressure. The water cradled him, moved with him. Asked nothing but presence. He floated, kicked lightly, no clock, no count. His joints whispered a new word, thank you. He added Tai Chi once a week, cycling when the weather allowed. He swapped concrete for softness, speed for rhythm. One morning, he realized he had walked less this month than ever, but felt more alive. He hadn't stopped moving. He'd started choosing how to move. And his body, for the first time in years, felt invited, not obligated. His doctor once told him gently, movement isn't about consistency anymore. It's about compatibility. Raymond now moves with a kind of peace that doesn't chase. It follows the breath, the warmth in the joints, the places where pain used to live and is now simply resting. Maybe walking didn't fail you. Maybe it was simply never meant to carry the whole weight. It served its season. It held rhythm. It marked mornings and moods. But your body, like your heart, was never built for repetition alone. It was built to vary, to adapt, to remember movement as conversation, not command. You haven't lost your vitality. You've just been speaking one dialect of movement in a body fluent in many. Now, the invitation is simple, to listen differently, not louder, not longer, just deeper. There's a quiet grief in believing we've been doing all the right things and still feeling like we're fading. You walked, you stretched, you showed up, but the muscles still softened, the joints still protested, the stares still stung. And it's not your fault. It's just no one told you that motion without variation becomes erosion. That effort without diversity becomes dullness. And you carried on anyway, because you're strong, because that's what you do. But strength also means pausing, admitting, asking, is there a better way now? And the answer, beautifully, is yes. Always yes. You don't need to reinvent yourself. You only need to return. Return to your hips, to your core, to your back and breath and balance. Return to the movements that once made you feel open, even if they no longer look the same. Return, not to the person you were, but to the one your body is still becoming. Let strength arrive slowly. Let balance be playful. Let posture rise with morning light. Let mobility hum through your joints. Let protection come from the kindness of choosing soft over stubborn. You haven't missed your chance. You haven't gone too far. You haven't been wrong. You've just been walking one road when 5 others were quietly waiting. Now, you've found them. And they're ready to carry you, not faster, but deeper. If your body stirred even once while reading this, if your shoulders dropped, or your breath slowed, or your knees quietly said yes, that's enough. You don't need a plan, just a pause, a new morning, a kettle boiling, a slow stretch at the sink, a movement not to prove anything, just to reconnect. Pick one, the one that called your name. And if you'd like to walk further with us, not in pace, but in presence, you're always welcome. We'll be here, not leading, not following, just beside you, as you remember how to move like you belong to yourself again. Until next time, take a slower breath and take care of your story.